I refuse to be gaslit by Dana White's Contender series, ladies and gentlemen, and it's gotten to a point where it's like you watch the Contender series every single day or every single Tuesday, not every single day. And it just seems like there's no longer prospects coming from the show. We're going to talk about what is wrong with the Contender series, why I have an issue with it, why I think a lot of people should have an issue with what's going on with it. So let's get right into it, man. Listen, the fights on Tuesday were really good. You had Ryan Gondra KO Trent Miller in the main event. Marcio Barbosa, I don't know why it's not Mauricio. KO Damon Wilson, nasty finish at the end of round one. Rahman finished a dude who looked like he had never fought before in 30 seconds. Manuel Souza came from behind in a great fight. And Dante Johnson got a quick KO. Guys, that's the type of thing. You look at that, you're like, 5 KOs. Wow, what a card. You've got like Dana White on the press conference. Yeah, what's the question? Yeah, that was an amazing night. Yeah, that's what the show's all about, dude, is the finishes. Yeah, how do you not sign each of these people? You would think that, right? Watching it and being like, wow, like look at all these amazing prospects getting the round one KOs. Wrong. You are dumb. You're listen, it's not you have to look at the actual like matchups when you see this kind of stuff because like Dante Johnson versus Darian Abbey. Dante Johnson was minus 250 and that line was terrible, by the way. Like I know he was 5-0, but he should have been like minus 600. Darian Abbey is a guy who has 3 KO losses in his career. He now has 4. Dante Johnson was 5-0 with 5 KOs coming into that fight. Of course that they would give him Darian Abbey if they were trying to sign him. It's like the one regional guy with a couple of wins you could give him. All of it is just a gimmick to get him signed to the promotion. It's not a matter of, let's give this guy the hardest fight and he'll prove that he's a real contender, which they used to do on the show instead of trying to farm finishes. Another example, Ryan Gondra versus Trent Miller. They did this whole pre-fight interview with Trent Miller where the entire time they're talking to Trent and he's like, yeah, I sleep on the roof. I'm in training with like Dominic Cruz and all those guys. I want this like Conor McGregor used to want it. Dog. If you wanted like Conor McGregor wanted it, you wouldn't look like you've literally never touched a heavy bag before. Trent Miller genuinely for 2 minutes fought like a make-a-wish patient. Like a guy whose one wish before he died was to go into the octagon and to get slept by a big Brazilian prospect. That was how Trent Miller fought on Tuesday. He did not land a punch to my knowledge. If he did, it was not significant. It was shameful. And it's just like the whole time you're like, why is this even happening? And of course the other guy gets signed. Like it's the most obvious thing in the world every time you see it. So it's just so frustrating, man. Like these don't produce prospects. Take Baisangar Susarkaev. Yes, this situation was weird. On 4 days' notice, he stepped basically from Las Vegas to Chicago and fought at 319. It was a big moment for him. I get it. But Eric Nolan, who he fought, is a welterweight who was way smaller frame wise than Susarkaev, who's a big 185. And he went out there and he touched up Susarkaev and probably won that round in the first round versus him off of rocking him at the end of the round. This guy, he thought that shit was sweet, when he goes out there and he finishes Muhammad Tallah with like a weird like teep kick to the body type of situation. And he's like, "Oh, like I'm the best. These people all love me and they all support me and all this kind of stuff." Dog, first of all, no one cheered his name in the post-fight interview. He just kind of was bigger than Eric Nolan. That's how he won. No one looks at that fight and looks at him now as like a prospect where you're hyped to see him fight every time. He's cool, finishing ability from that area of the world, you know. But you watch that and you're like, okay, well, this guy just got rocked by a guy who's supposed to weigh 15 pounds less than him and is noticeably smaller and is legitimately on 4 days' notice. He didn't just have a fight not that long ago. Like it's just a horrible idea to give these guys these layup matchups every single time. Another example of a good one. This is what they used to do on the Contender Series. Jose Delgado versus Ernie Juarez. Ernie Juarez was 8-0 in a major promotion in Uriah Faber's A1 Combat. They give him legit prospects, they give him legitimate fights, And all of them have trained MMA before that fight in there because Uriah Faber's trying to find his guys for Team Alpha Male. Jose Delgado was 10-0, or sorry, he was like 8-1 or something with all finishes up to that point. You would think if it was this year's Contender Series where they're trying at all costs to just get ratings high and not have boring fights, they would give him a complete can. But instead, you give him an undefeated guy to test him, and guess what? He finishes him in round two and shows off his wrestling. That's how you know Delgado's a real prospect. And you know how you can further verify that? Delgado finished Hyder Emil in 30 seconds in June. That's how you know he's legit. Not by giving him some can like Trent Miller or Darian Abbey. And every single guy was a can that these people fought, by the way. The same dude that Rock, I don't know how you say his name, but the dude that he fought. Like the matching up of these guys is so bizarre, and it's so clear that it's just for ratings that a lot of these people are going to have wake up calls. Ryan Gondra, again, versus Trent Miller. I believe he had never fought out of Brazil, was what I had heard. If he thinks that he can just walk around with that much body fat and he gets to just throw with 100% power, no regard for cardio, nothing at middleweight, no chance. He's gonna have a wake up call. He's gonna fight fucking. He's probably gonna fight like Robert Valentin or some shit after this. But so he will. I mean, he will be able to do it again. But at the higher level, these guys are gonna have wake up calls that what you saw in the Contender Series is not the UFC. The Contender Series is just Dana White and Hunter Campbell and Mick Maynard's attempt to kind of farm IG reels and YouTube Shorts clips. Like they're doing what I do on a daily basis, basically. Like it's I don't understand what the point of that is. We want to see good fights. KOs are cool. Everyone's bloodthirsty when they're watching events, but you want to see a good fighter more than anything. There was a guy not that long ago, even who had a great fight too. So it's tricky. But there is hope, ladies and gentlemen, for the future of the Contender Series because next week, Tommy McMillan versus David Mgoyan. David Mgoyan is 21 years old, 7-0 with 6 finishes. Tommy McMillan is 8-0 with 8 finishes. Mgoyan trains out of American Top Team, a top gym. He's getting great work in with top guys. Tommy McMillan trains with Sean O'Malley's team. I will say though that O'Malley was asked about this, and he was like, "Yeah, it's a tough fight for him, you know." But I think imagine not picking Tommy McMillan, dude. Like imagine not picking him. He's gonna win, dude. He's not jerking. He's not jerking the pain, dude. He's locked in. So it'll be interesting, but that's a matchup that you can make. There are so many undefeated and high finishing rate prospects you can put against each other. You don't need to build them as separate guys in the same division. Put them against each other. See who is better. See who deserves to be in the top combat sport division in the world, or the combat sport promotion, rather. Like, it's just so silly that, like, if it was last week, Tommy McMillan would have been facing a random guy. Like, literally, he would have been fighting Dana White. Like, that's what they would have done. They would have done Tommy McMillan versus fucking Brendan Fitzgerald. Like, they would have just found a random person to fight him. And that's what I don't understand, and that's kind of my complaint in general about the Contender Series is that, I'll go back to the matchups. Ryan Gondra was like a minus 700 favorite. Barboza was a big favorite, and Damon Wilson gave him a test. He was kind of legit, but once Barboza found his timing, Wilson had nothing for him. Yakyaev literally fought a can, like a random person. I have no clue who Alik Lorenz is. He's dog shit. Christian Perez was legit, but his last fight took place a year and a half ago in karate combat, not even in MMA. Emmanuel Souza had been years on the regional scene in Brazil, including a win over Mauricio Rufy. Dante Johnson had been fighting in what I believe to be LFA. If it was not LFA, it was random B-League promotions. But he had all KOs. Darian Abbey had been KO'd 3 times, including a random Tim Johnson KO loss. You know what I mean? Like, what are these matchups? We're talking minus 250, minus 300, minus 1100, minus 500, minus 500. Why are they that big of favorites? If they're a good prospect, you need to show that you're a good prospect. So it's just, it's one of those things where you almost are hoping for a crazy close decision. I know Dana doesn't like them. Like, he wants to see guys come in there and get first round KO knockouts, and that was the same thing. I don't know why I said KO knockouts, but he wants to see guys get put out cold, basically. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're some sort of prospect. Look at that Colombian girl or Venezuelan girl that got a knockout over, like it was like a plus 500 underdog. She got a crazy knockout. I think they knew that she had more power and they tried to get that girl knocked off. And guess what happened in her debut? She lost, I believe, unless it didn't happen yet. But I'm pretty sure she lost dominantly. Um, it's one of those things where you have to mimic the UFC to see if they are a prospect. This matchup does that, and I haven't seen a single other matchup on the Contender Series this year that mimics a real UFC matchup to see if someone's a prospect. So that's my main complaint when I'm talking about this stuff, and it's something that I don't know if it's ever going to change. Like I think we're at a point with Contender Series where they know with ESPN Plus leaving that it's a ratings game. They just want to show Paramount that they can do numbers with Contender Series. So all they're doing is doing these finishing guys who are fighting cans from the regional scenes that are 33 years old and oh, they're serious about the game now, but they haven't been serious for the last 15 years that they've been training. You know, like it's all just a game to get people to watch, and it sucks because it's a real chance. You have had champions come off the series, but guess what? None of them have come off since like 2020. You know, Jamal Hill wasn't off the Contender Series in 2020. I think Della Maddalena was back there in the Contender Series. You have Sean O'Malley came off the Contender Series early. I'm trying to think if there's any girls that I can think of, but not off the top of my head. Um, and I mean, like Dan Ige was one of the early guys. Matt Frivola was one of the early guys. You get like these random people that come around and are able to stick. And McKinney was one of the early ones. And guess what? A bunch of them lost their first time. That goes to show that you can make prospects by having them lose. They come back and oh my god, they're better. We gave them a tough opponent and they still won. That's what you're supposed to do. Torres Finney won 3 times on the Contender Series. Each of them were layup matchups, and they just wanted to build his name. And then he got to the UFC, and Robert Valentin is dog shit. Like, he's not even a good UFC fighter. And then he couldn't do a thing. He just kind of held him up against the cage, didn't really take him down. He's gassed in like halfway through the second round and was dying by the end of the third, and he just pulled out of his recent fight. He realized he wasn't built for this shit. Torres Finney wasn't built for this life. And that's because it was a wake up call when he got to the UFC to realize, holy shit, like I am not on this level. You know, so it's just something that each of these fighters are going to realize, and it's something I want to talk about because don't bet on these people. Like they're going to lose their next fight if it's a decent opponent. So that's all I wanted to talk about today. I appreciate all of you. It's been a long time no see. Trying to find, you know, the right time now that I'm back in school to record these and the right areas and what to talk about. So obviously I'll have something out tomorrow too. That's the way it works. You know, we'll get back to the consistent vibes obviously over here, and anyone that's watching, I appreciate it. You know, like, comment, and subscribe down below. You know the deal. I mean, it's always the same thing. There's a train coming by right now, so I got to wrap it up. But I'll see you boys in the next one. It's been a Money Manziel MMA production. Peace out.